Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the April meeting of Leeds City Council Executive Board. I'll start by noting that this meeting will be webcast live and welcome anybody watching online. And I'll move now to the formal items at the top of the agenda. Item 1, are there any appeals against refusal of inspection of documents, please?
Thanks, Chair. To confirm, no appeals have been received for today's meeting.
Thank you. And can you confirm the exempt information, please?
Thanks, Chair. Yes, Appendix 1 to Item 8, which is regarding the procurement and implementation of a new asset management solution, and Appendix D to Item 10, which is South Leeds Regeneration, Elland Road, both being designated as being exempt from publication under Access to Information Procedure Rule 10.43, and should the Board be agreeable, these appendices will be considered in private at the conclusion of the public part of the meeting.
Thank you. I'll turn to Item 3 and late items, please.
Thanks, Chair. A report entitled Outcome of Consultation on a Proposal to Close Queensway Primary School has been admitted to the agenda for the consideration as a late item of business within the Children and Families portfolio. The report for this item has been circulated to board members in advance of the meeting and published as required.
Thank you. I'll turn to the board. Are there any declarations of interest, please? Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just for item 12, just to note that I'm a member of the board of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Thank you, and I have the same interest. Are there any more interests to declare? I don't see anybody with their hands up, so I'll turn to item 5, which is a meeting of the 12th of March minutes, and see if everybody is happy with those. That's great, thank you. I am going to reorder the one of the items, and we're going to take item 10, which is South Leeds Regeneration, Elland Road, first. Very fitting, we take this at the first Executive Board after Leeds United have been promoted, and I'll ask Councillor Pryor to introduce this paper, please.
Thank you, Leader. So this is the South Leeds Regeneration, Elland Road. Leader's absolutely right. I think it'd be remiss to not offer our wholesome congratulations to Leeds United, everyone at Leeds United, including the players, staff and supporters on this week's promotion and what's been a fantastic season for the club. So Premier League status brings huge global appeal. It offers wider economic benefits to Leeds and further showcases our city as a wonderful place to live, work and visit. Leeds United is one of the best supported clubs in the country, and the Elland Road Stadium is a fortress for Leeds fans known across the footballing world. The club has been working closely with the council on plans to expand Elland Road's capacity up to 56,500, making it the 7th largest stadium in the country and one of the elite stadiums in Europe. Public consultation on the forthcoming planning application will begin soon, with construction works potentially starting within the next 12 months. The council has carefully assembled land around Elland Road over several years, extending to approximately 30 acres, presenting a major regeneration opportunity on strategically located brownfield land. And then with the potential of mass transit nearby, which we continue to work with Mayor Braben on, things are really coming together and the timings are aligning across several areas. And this creates the ingredients to deliver something truly special at Elland Road for the communities of South Leeds, but for our whole city as well. It is one of the most shovel-ready, stadium-led regeneration projects in the whole country. So in this context, I'm pleased to bring this paper outlining 3 steps the council can take to facilitate transformation here. So firstly, we have a recommendation to dispose of council land next to the stadium to the club at market value to be used for expanding Elland Road's capacity to 56,500. Secondly, a recommendation for the council to enter a memorandum of understanding with the Lowy family group, the club's development partner, to develop a regeneration strategy for the council's wider land ownership of 30 acres and to consider delivery options. And thirdly, a recommendation for the Chief Planning Officer to refresh the city's 2007 vision set through the Elland Road informal planning statement. And this is on the basis of public consultation taking place on the refreshed vision ahead of it being brought to a future Exec Board meeting. If agreed, this will help maintain momentum and create an all-year-round destination at Elland Road. Further today, public consultations will soon commence where people can have their say on the club's application as well as the council's refreshed vision. Through partnership, we hope to develop a vibrant and thriving destination at Elland Road. I shall leave it there for opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pryor. Councillor Lamb, would you like to come in, please?
Yep, thank you, Leader. Thank you for the introduction. And if I can start by adding my congratulations to Leeds United. Leeds should be a Premier League city in every single respect, and we've just got to make sure that they stay there now. They need a stadium to match, and the city needs a stadium to match. We need conferencing facilities, hotel capacity. This has the potential to go way beyond football benefits for Leeds. So I'm pleased that it's being brought forward, pleased that the council is using its ability and enabling ability and capacity to help to support this. It's absolutely what we should be doing in conjunction with the combined authority. Important to note, none of this is predicated on taxpayer funding. This is simply about using our ability to, with the land ownerships and things. There are a huge number of benefits available to the city. I think there are already moves afoot to properly celebrate and recognise the achievement of Leeds getting back into the Premier League, and we'll certainly be supporting those. So, I think this is one way we all need to come together, roll our sleeves up and make sure it happens.
Thank you. Are there any more comments from anybody? No. Lots of people sat around the table are very pleased. Are very pleased with the news we're back in. Very pleased we're back in the news we're back in the Premier League. I won't ask for a show of hands who was there at midnight outside Ellen Road celebrating from around the table. But it is great news. Thanks for your support, Councillor Lamb. Is there anything you want to say something up, Councillor Pryor? Okay, that's great. So I'm going to turn to the board and the recommendations on page 266. And I'll take it from the comments made. Everybody is happy with those recommendations. That's great, thank you. And we'll move on to the next item, which is in my portfolio, and it is the refresh of the Best City Ambition and Organisational Plan. This is to follow on the football theme, starting the ball rolling on the review of the Best City Ambition, which recognises how we work as a council in the city. And it's also an important opportunity as well to have a look at our organisational plan alongside that, about how we as an organisation do that, how we're maintaining sustainability, which I think is going to be increasingly important moving forward, while providing high quality public services. So from this paper and this meeting, the proposal is that we go out to consultation. We'll certainly take it to Strategy and Resources Scrutiny Board for consultation in the first place, and come back to future executive board meetings with the final proposal. So with that, I shall leave my introductory comments, and Councillor Lamb, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think that obviously this is, as you say, getting the ball rolling, the starting point. So the feedback is intended to be constructive, and I hope it's taken as such. So if I have a criticism of previous iterations of the plan, and I base this well on feedback from other partners and organisations around the city, it's that it feels like a plan very much by the council, of the council, telling people what they should be doing and what we will be doing, rather than a more collaborative approach, which I think is what we need. Because if we are going to be the best city in the country, there is only so much the council can do. We've got an enabling role and lots of influence and reach in lots of places, but there are so many areas where we need others to take a lead, play their part, get stuck in. And for that reason, I think we've got to take this opportunity with this refresh of actually really engaging with partners and making it be their plan as much as it is the council's plan. And it's not just about what the council can do, it should be about what all of the other organisations, the health sector, the tech sector, the private business, the third sector, all of those different organisations have got a key role to play. And so I think that if I'm going to make a challenge, that would be it, that when this comes back, it should really not just be a council plan, it should be a whole city plan.
Thank you. Mariana, please.
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Thanks, Councillor Lamb. I think we'd all agree that we want partners to be able to do as much as possible, as well as we want all 812,000 people in the city to play their role in being the best city. So that is going to be a continuous challenge. I think we could look to some partners where this is really webbed through their plans and strategies, but not universally. And so the engagement opportunity, and we probably will take a fraction longer than is suggested in this, just to make sure we can do that and can get that ownership, as you say, so that when we come back, you know, it does look and feel even more like a partnership document than it has been so far.
Thank you, Mariana. And I think it's a welcome challenge, Councillor Lamb. We moved on to having a best city ambition following the COVID pandemic, where we did recognise, as you set out, we did have a strong response across the city that wasn't just the councils; it was lots of organisations working together. I do think it is a good challenge. As Mariana said, we're going to build that into the consultation. I think as well, being clear that the best city ambition and the organisational plan, which is how we work, are two separate bits of work. We're sort of reflecting that the things we need to do as a council and organisation, and there is that wider city ambition, and we look forward to bringing it back. Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, for allowing me to come in. And I suppose just as for a bit of context, really, that as a council and as a city, our partnership working is absolutely crucial to everything we do, and we're recognised nationally for the partnership work that we do undertake in the city. You know, across so many different areas in the city, and work through health, through employment, through lots of through communities, through policing, through lots of other measures. So actually to raise it as a point, to make sure that it does feature in our best city ambition, I think is really a good point to raise. But I just wanted to put it in some context that we do have exceptionally good partnership way of working in this city with all our partners that we need to, but it just needs to be noted in these reports, really, and have their input into it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands up on this paper, so I'm going to move to the recommendations on page 22. I take it everybody on the board is happy with those. That's great. So we're on to your papers now, Councillor Cooper, please.
Thank you, Leader. And the first of my papers is the financial health monitoring. This is month 11's position, so it's the provisional outturn for going towards the end of the year. So we are projecting a balanced position at this point. The report also includes the various areas that have either underspent or overspent, and that is detailed within the report. The report, I just want to mention also, the report does outline the savings that have already been made as well within that year. That is, has been quite significant. I'll just find the figure that I can. So we did identify £79.8 million worth of saving, either in the original budget findings or that we've found since then as well. And a significant amount of those have already been reached. So when you think about this set in the financial landscape that this budget was set in, which was not this February, but it was the February previously, that I think it's really a good position that we've managed to achieve all those savings within that year. And I just wanted Executive Board to know our thanks to the directors and all the teams that they're working with in them achieving those savings throughout that year as well. We know that there's still more to be done, and we know there are still savings there that weren't achieved, but that we will continue to work upon those as well. I'll leave it there for questioning. Thanks, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Lamb, would you like to come in, please?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Similar questions to usual. So obviously we're always looking backwards on this paper at how we've done and how we've been doing, but it also gives us an indication of how we're going to be doing in the future. We know the story. It's well versed that the challenges largely focus around children's services and adult services. If we can, I've got some specific questions around adults, but if we could start with children's, just to get some reassurance and clarity around the plans for next year, and hopefully the director can give us some confidence and the executive member that we are going to stick to the budget next year that's set. There's a significant increase within it, and the consequences of not doing so are significant, because it's taken a lot of use of reserves to get to a balanced position this year, and you can't keep dipping into that well. So if we could start with a response from the children's side, and then I've got some specific questions about adults, please.
Thanks, Councillor Lamb. Julie, please.
Thank you, Leader. As is set out in the paper today, the Children and Families Directorate, alongside support actually from other directorates within the council, have been working on a very, very clear and detailed sufficiency strategy. That strategy, really, every local authority has a responsibility for ensuring that they've got the right mix, the right quality of provision for their children looked after, and it has to be a range of provision in order to meet the varied needs of children that we have in Leeds. We know that one of the pressures that we have had is the number of children that we do have in external residential placements, and it's right and proper that we want those children back in Leeds. Our overall number of children looked after has continued to fall, and that is real evidence of effective early help and family help, so avoiding the need for children to become looked after. In Leeds, we have a rate per 10,000 of children looked after, which is currently at about 89. That's below the core cities average, which is currently about 95, and it's also below our stat neighbours, which is 91.8. So a key part of our sufficiency strategy has also got to be about reducing the need, removing the need for children to become looked after, and we can see that our numbers in terms of children looked after are reducing. In terms of the broader sufficiency strategy, we have increased our small group living homes to an extent that I don't think any other local authority in this country has done. We've currently got an additional 7 small group living homes, so really providing, the best alternative really to family care, a feel of a family in a small, loving, nurturing home. We've, as of month 11, we've had 9 children who've been reunified back into our homes, and that's a saving of around £27,500 a week. We've got a further 8 children who are going to be reunified back with family. In addition to that, we have the children coming back into our residential care from external residential placements in particular has meant an additional saving of about £78,000 per week. So you can see, first and foremost, our sufficiency strategy is about doing the right thing for children and getting the right outcomes for children, which is to be back in Leeds primarily with family, if not then primarily with foster care, and if not then in our own well-run quality small group living homes. In addition to that, we're establishing parent and child homes in Leeds. We are establishing more accommodation for families where children need a break, so families where there's crisis and children may have to come into care for a very, very short period, so that we can support the children and the families and have them reunified. In addition to that, we have expanded our reunification team. We have expanded our number of kinship carers, but we're really also looking at placement stability. So whether that's a child that's living in foster care, whether that's a child who is living in one of our own small group living homes, whether that's a child who's currently living with a family but who may be struggling for a number of reasons. We're putting in a lot of support and, again, new teams working to ensure that those placements for those children are stable and that they don't break down. In addition to that, we have developed, again, working cross-corporately, additional accommodation for our care leavers. So that's our young people who are 18 plus, and real high quality, you know, which is really important, you know, improved accommodation for those young people as they transition into adulthood. So the sufficiency strategy is very, very detailed. We have a delivery board, which I chair as Director for Children's Services. The Children and Families Senior Leadership Team monitor the sufficiency strategy, our budget action plans robustly. In addition to that, we monitor that through the corporate leadership team. And then in addition, we also have a member oversight meeting which meets regularly. So the scrutiny, the way in which we're monitoring and taking a cross-council approach to monitoring is very, very robust. And I'll leave it there, but very happy to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Julie. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think we have to stick to the budget. We've got to get the best outcomes for children within this, but the consequences of not sticking to the budget are really significant, and probably more so in the coming year than they have been previously. Turning to adults, recommendation F is asking us to delegate a further uplift in commission service fees to social care, home care providers. It gives us a figure, but in the letter that was issued on the 11th of April to providers, that confirmed that we'd gone from the 1.6% that was initially in the budget, which clearly was always woefully inadequate, to not quite as inadequate 5%, but still nowhere near enough. The sector have said and evidenced that the increased costs of employers' national insurance, the real living wage, the reductions that we've made in the fee we pay when people go into hospital from 3 weeks to 1 week, the combination of that means they're faced with a cost increase of somewhere between 8 and 10%, and we're offering them 5%. And they've been extremely clear that there are going to be significant consequences from that. It's going to be a theme of this meeting, but when we have those kind of concerns presented to us, and when the impacts are not clear, I'm not sure it's responsible to be making this decision. And equal, there's one thing about what we do. Another recurring theme will be the way that we do it. So it was disappointing to learn that the letter that was sent out in the name of Councillor Lewis and Councillor Aire, neither of you have actually had the courtesy of meeting with representatives of the sector or replying to the emails or correspondence that they've sent you, other than to issue them this letter, which doesn't respond to the concerns that they've raised. So I think that's extremely discourteous and disappointing, and I would leave it to the politicians to answer that part. But in terms of the actual uplift, they're really clear what the consequences of this are. People are going to have to leave the market. Providers are going to go out of business. People who depend on those providers for their care may not have their care. There may be gaps in care while they have to find new providers, and they will not be able to meet the costs. They have raised serious concerns that the quality of care is already diminishing as a result of this, and perhaps the Director can confirm the recent CQC inspections in Leeds that have taken place since the beginning of April, when these cost changes came in, have not been very good so far, is my understanding. So I think it's really clear, before anyone makes a decision, I certainly can't support recommendation F as it is, because I think there's more work to be done with the sector, and I think that should be the commitment of Executive Board. I don't think this should be the end of the matter. I think there's, given what I think you're going to tell us about the potential impacts, it would be irresponsible to say, right, that's done. There's an awful lot that needs to be done in the care sector. There's a view, which I share, that there is enough money in the system to provide good quality social care for people that need it in their homes. It's just not in the right places, and there needs to be work done in partnership with the providers, with the health service, with the council and others, to really look hard at this and how we make sure the money is in the right places so that real good quality care can be delivered in the city.
Caroline, please.
Thank you very much. I'll come first, if you don't mind, in terms of your direct question around meeting with providers. Certainly Councillor Arif and I meet with the Leeds Care Association representatives regularly. They're scheduled throughout the year, about once every 2 months. That Leeds Care Association organisation does represent the range of different providers. What we have found as we've undertaken our consultation on our proposed fees, that very, very recently the home care providers, a number, not all by any means, but a number of the care home providers have come together as a home care provider alliance. That has been a very new and recent situation. I've certainly met with them on Teams, all of them, and had quite detailed discussions, and their feedback is what's been taken back to Councillor Lewis, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Pryor, Councillor Arif around looking again at our 1.6%, and we have looked at what partly is affordable as well, but also what we see on the basis of the analysis we've done in the market around what capacity is already available. We have to be honest, we've got a buoyant home care market. We've got many, many providers. Many are small providers, but many of them saying, we've got capacity, we've done international recruitment, we've got a good workforce, we can take more capacity. So we aren't at that point where providers are saying, no, we're not able to deliver home care. The consultation feedback didn't show that there would be all of our home care providers would be saying we can't deliver capacity. We have to wait and see. We will absolutely be watching what the market is telling us, whether there are any delays in us being able to provision home care. I have to say, at the moment, we are in the best position we've ever been around getting home care capacity. It takes 6 days from the point at which somebody is identified as needing home care and a home care provider being able to pick up a package. That's better than in all the history that I've known in Leeds. So we're in a strong position. The other thing to say also is that we were starting from a strong position in this the financial year that's just gone by, in that when our benchmarking data does show that we're a high payer for home care providers, particularly as the leader has been really committed to the workforce being paid, the wider social care workforce and particularly home care workforce, frontline staff being paid the real living wage. And we were allocating a 40p on top of the real living wage. So we've been the envy of many around the region in terms of our fees for home care. Other local authority areas are allocating a higher increase in some cases for the next financial year, but that's because they are having to catch up quite big time. So we have a level of confidence that the 5% that we are now offering will help ensure that the capacity continues. I'd like to assure you that we will continue to meet with the Home Care Provider Alliance to listen, to understand whether they are still experiencing or saying that they're experiencing difficulties, and we will keep an absolute watching eye on whether that causes any capacity problems for home care. But we do feel relatively assured and confident that the 5% we're allocating is not now an outlier in the way that we were going to be with the 1.6%, thanks to the additional funding that's been put forward of 3.74 million.
Councillor Cooper, please.
Yeah, if I could just come in with, again, some context, Leader, about recommendation F, which is, because it's a finance paper, it's not a decision about a fee uplift, it's about allocating finances to adults and health around their fee uplifts that were consulted upon, but not a decision about making that fee uplift. In fact, it does say that the separate decision will be taken by the Director of Adults around final fee uplifts through delegated decision. I just wanted to make that clear. It's about the reallocation of funding.
Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you for the responses. And I know what you say, but the letter to the commissioners it clearly says the decision is subject to approval at Executive Board. And the way it's set up is, sorry, that's your final offer, that's what you're getting. So what I haven't heard is an acknowledgement of what the impact is on the sector and on residents. And the Leeds Home Care Provider Alliance, I understand now represents about 60% of all the care provided in the city. And they are saying, that's what they're telling me, they paint a very different picture to the director of the situation. So who's right and who's wrong?
Caroline, please.
Thank you. Just come back again. So, yeah, it's approximately 50% of the home care market, not the full care provision, just specifically home care. But we've got many, many other providers in the market who are delivering home care, who in the consultation feedback did express that there were concerns around other financial pressures, not least the changes in the employer's national insurance contribution, but they have not given an indication that this, even at that 1.6%, that they would be looking to exit the market. That has come, to be honest, through the voice of one particular home care provider who is a provider that works in various other local authorities, and her view is that a 1.6% just is an insult in terms of the provision. We've looked again, therefore, at using the social care grant and allocating the majority of that additional funding for home care. As I say, Councillor Lamb, we will absolutely watch and see and make sure that there isn't an adverse impact. We will report any concerns really quickly, and we will make sure that we act upon those as well, because the last thing that we want is to have people delayed from receiving home care, or people having to see a massive change in their home care provision. So we will make sure that what we're doing is supporting the market. We often have, for home care, it's a fluctuating market. Providers come in, providers exit quite routinely, and in recent years we've just seen a massive expansion in home care being provided in the Leeds area. CQC will report an increased number of home care agencies who have registered to operate in Leeds, and in the majority of cases that's because our fees are of a reasonable level. But I just want to assure you that this is not something that we will be sitting back and thinking our work is done. We will be continuing to work with the market. I will continue to meet with the Home Care Provider Alliance as well, just to keep a rain check on how they're adapting to the fee that we're proposing.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'll make the point later, but it's obviously not uncommon. It's part of my job to raise challenges at this table and concerns. But we'll come to a paper later on where my concerns were ignored, and we're going to have to deal with the consequence of that. I met with 7 providers yesterday, and it certainly wasn't just one that was raising the same concerns. The 7 I met did represent 60% of the market in Leeds, and they are saying some of them will fail if we don't address this. Some of those on the call will fail. They will not be able to keep delivering this service, and we surely have a duty to listen to those kind of warnings and work with people, and at the very least look at the hard evidence and data. I'm simply taking them at their word, and I can only take you at your word, but they are very real concerns that are being expressed, and very clear and practical things that they're looking for from the council that can be delivered, don't necessarily cost any or a huge amount of money. Their biggest frustration is the communication and the fact that people aren't talking to them, in their view. And so I just think just going ahead and saying this is it, that's the amount of money there is, 5%, that's it, with those warnings ringing in our ears, is a huge mistake. and I think there's more work to do on this before we cause a further problem.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Does anybody else want to come in on this paper? I think, as the director said, this is clearly something that we are going to watch very carefully through the course of the year, and the director and Councillor Aire will continue to meet the home care providers as well, and continue to look at it. So I want to reassure you, Councillor Lamb, that is something that we do take, and we do take providers' views on board. There are regular meetings with providers that take place, and like I say, we'll continue to review the situation as the year goes by. We felt it was important to make the decision here, and the recommendation that Caroline will make around an uplift now, and we'll continue to look at that through the course of the year. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you. Just to record, I do want to reserve my position on recommendation F on that. The final question, I'm just concerned, given what we've heard and the discussions, the direction of travel, that we are going to get very quickly into the new year and still be reporting overspends in children's and adults, and we do not have the pots to dip into. And I just think it would be helpful if Victoria could just run through what the consequences would be if we are in a similar position next year, reporting overspends as we go into the year, and what sort of things will have to be done to address that. Victoria, please.
Thank you, Chair. What I would say is that when we set the budget in February for 2025-26, we did recognise the demand pressures and the demography pressures that social care, both in adults and children's, were experiencing. And if you remember, we put 49 million into the budget to reflect that, and that's why we have got a big savings programme for 25-26. There's been a lot of discussions about what we're going to be doing around monitoring, so we've started the position now around looking what's happening in April and May, to see we get early warning signs of that monitoring position so that we can take timely corrective action. So when we come back to Executive Board in July with the first monitor, that will be a position where we will have done some deep dives into those high-risk areas and forecast forward on what we think is going to happen for the rest of the financial year. On the back of that, we will produce action plans around how we'll mitigate that position to bring it back in. But it is very clear that key messages have been sent out to all budget holders and those people responsible for the budget action plans about the deliverability of those, to make sure that we do deliver those on time and to the level that we've said, and that if budgets do start moving away from us, that we manage our pressures and bring them back under control. And that's what the key messages that have been sent to all staff. We normally take a position in September to say what we think is going to happen for the rest of the financial year. And when we've looked back over the monitoring, that has been really robust, and that position did reflect where we were going to end up at this time now as we close the accounts. But we're going to bring that forward to July so that we really do that robust monitoring. If we get to the position and we've done everything in our control and in our gift to be able to bring that budget back, then we will have to then make decisions on what the next steps would be. That would either be to see about the general fund balances, which we definitely would not want to do, but if it came to that position where we had some delays and we couldn't bring the budget back in, we would have to discuss whether we'd be using those, and have discussions with central government, as other local authorities have, around exceptional financial assistance. However, we will be doing everything in our control to make sure that we don't go into that position and that we manage the budget that was set in February. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Are there any more comments on this paper? I don't see any, so I'm going to turn to the recommendations. Councillor Lamb, could you just remind us what your intentions are on voting on this, please?
Yeah, I'd like to reserve my position on recommendation F.
Thank you, and I take it everybody else is happy with that paper. That's great. We'll move on to item 8, please.
Thank you, Leader. The next report that I'm bringing to Executive Board today is seeking the approval of Executive Board to procure and implement a new asset management IT solution. It's to replace a very old and outdated Cube system, which has been in use for approximately 25 years. And we're looking to do it in 2 phases. The first phase is intended for the system to be rolled out for the leased out commercial estate, and the second phase is for the system to be rolled out to the council's operational property estate. The new IT solution will form part of Microsoft Dynamics, which is how the platform which the council runs on. It fits in with the existing core business transformation programme and the way that we are managing and modernising digitalisation. Just to say that the cost of the new system is estimated at £1.7 million, which is due to be funded from capital receipts. I'll leave it there for now. Thanks, Leader.
Thank you. Any comments on this paper? Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you. On the face of it, this seems absolutely the right thing to do. I think we're basically moving on from a very large abacus for organising this. But my one nervousness is bitter experience in the council of replacing IT systems, and I can go back as far as replacing the electronic social care record system back in about 2010, I think, which turned into a complete disaster. And there haven't been many success stories since, I have to say. And the reason that one went badly was because we took a system and then tried to adapt the system to how we work in the council, rather than adapting how we work to fit with the very expensive system. And I think the learning repeatedly is to make sure that we go for the latter approach rather than the former. So it's really just for a reassurance that to make sure this stays on time and on budget and does what we intend it to do, that the workforce is geared up to adapt itself to the system, rather than we're going to try and find ways to fudge it and fix it and shoehorn it into working the way we'd like it to.
Thank you. Victoria, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have had the core business transformation programme in operation, where we're replacing the HR system, payroll and finance, and we've put in a dedicated project team who've managed that programme. That programme is coming in on budget, and we've been very clear from the start about the principles around the system and the solution, that we will not adapt the system, that we adopt it from what has been produced. And that has worked really well. We've gone live with the payroll solution, and that went live on the 1st of April. And again, that there are always bumps in the road, but that has been delivered, and the organisation has been trained on the use of, it's called MHR, and there is a lot of training going on at the moment around Dynamics to show that the recent implementations of the system solutions are successful. Cube, the replacement for Cube, will be on the same basis and will be part of the core business transformation, and will take the same approach so that we come in on budget and that the organisation is ready for the change. So we can give Executive Board that assurance. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Any more comments on this item? I don't see any, so I'm going to turn to the recommendations on page 91 and 92, and I take it everybody's happy with those. That's great. We're on to item 9, please, which you're going to introduce, Councillor Cooper, then a few more of Executive Board members are going to speak on it, and then I'll bring you in, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Leader. And the last of that comes under my portfolio today is the Locality Assets and Service Review report. Now, this is a cross-council report, really, which shows how we are working more closely together across directorates in order to achieve transformation within the organisation and the city itself. So So I will introduce it, but I will bring in other executive board members to speak about their own service areas and the impact or any changes that they want to let executive board know about. So this report updates the board on the council's delivery and progress of the locality building review, and sets out the position of the ongoing service reviews for in-house day opportunities for adults and health, for Little Owls nurseries and children's centres for children and families, and for the community centre update for communities. The report also highlights the new ways of working in localities and the opportunities that this creates to future-proof our locality provision and ensure it's fit for purpose and better reflects the need, while also recognising our significant financial challenge means we can no longer afford to retain and run the number of locality buildings that are in our ownership. The opportunity also refocuses us on the recommendations from the LGA peer review and are in line with that. They also are in line with the best city ambition that we discussed earlier, really linking into the principles of early intervention, prevention and community power to lead to a more integrated approach to locality working. And I know that later on at Executive Board, Councillor Harland will be discussing, you know, the community working and integrated approach in locality working in her own paper as well. Yes, so I would also just like to say that through all this transformational work that we're undertaking and the buildings review and other capital receipt expectations, that Executive Board is looking at a £42.8 million of capital receipts that are identified and targeted for this financial year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Shall I bring in the Executive Board members
Please.
for now? Okay, so can I first bring in Councillor Aire around the adults and health service implications?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Cooper. I'm pleased that the report, as you say, clearly demonstrates a cross-portfolio approach to the use of assets. As has been said, this is a key agenda for the city, both in respect of the way in which we work within our communities and how we use the assets available to us to the best effect. With specific reference to the sections of the report that relates to my portfolio, this report sets out a decision to approve the outcome of the review of in-house day opportunities to reduce the number of buildings from which the services operate from 6 to 3. This decision builds on the long-established strengths-based approach taken within adults and health and with the mental health day services, increasing the use of community and peer groups and developing activities that are community-based and less building-focused. We've also seen a reduction in demand since the pandemic for this type of service, resulting in the space being available and under occupancy in the buildings that are included in the proposal. The report gives more detail as to the use and condition of the various building and sets out a clear case for change. It is also worth noting that in line with the way in which the council works proactively with the third sector, there are a number of community partners who use the 3 buildings outlined in the proposal, primarily outside of the day opportunities operating hours. These community organisations have also been offered support with relocation as part of the careful proposal planning, and a large proportion of have opted to relocate along with the wider service. No community partners of the complex needs centres are impacted by the proposals. It is recognised that any service or building changes can be impactful for both service users and staff, and that is why there has been a detailed process of consultation with people who use both sets of services and their families, and comprehensive plans prepared to ensure that people who are affected will be fully supported to make the change required. The strength of feeling from the consultation feedback is acknowledged, in particular from people who access Stocks Hill Hub. Letters and emails were received during the consultation containing many signatures and descriptions of the impact of the service relocation would have on people's well-being. In listening to this feedback, and other community spaces have been identified in the Army area and on the days people told us were most important to them. The proposal also builds on the investment that the Council made into the 3 complex needs centres in recent years, resulting in them being a really good quality resource with all the facilities that people need, including accessible spaces, changing areas and a choice of rooms for groups and other activities. Bringing these services together also allows for further savings from the staffing budget with no impact on the level of service being provided. There has been a significant consultation undertaken with staff, people who use the service and the community partners. Equality, diversity, cohesion and integration assessments have been carried out, which seeks to ensure that any risk or implications have been identified and addressed. I have read the detailed consultation document and I'm aware of the range of thoughts and feelings that have been expressed, and I'm confident that through effective planning these issues can be resolved. I'd like to direct you to the detail in the report that sets out the consultation, planning and risk assessment that has already been undertaken to ensure that the change, which makes best use of council assets, will also not leave anyone who uses the service at any disadvantage, and that the council can continue to meet its statutory obligations under the Care Act. Just to say also, operating from the 3 buildings instead of 6 would deliver significant efficiencies without reducing the level of service provided. If the decision is approved, people accessing the mental health hub buildings will be supported throughout the relocation to the 3 complex needs centres. This will be carefully planned and carried out professionally, sensitively and safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aire. Councillor Hayden, do you want to speak to Executive Board about the Children's Centre?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Cooper. Yeah, just to say that the Children's Centre review is going on. It's a service review as well as buildings. There has been a number of consultation events that have happened, and it continues to happen. I'd like to thank everyone who has attended, extremely well attended, both in person, a couple in person, and online. There's also a survey to fill in, a questionnaire to fill in, and I'd like to thank everyone who has attended and given their input. That goes on, and we've yet to see the results of the review, but just to say that it is in response to the ever-changing needs and challenges facing families in this city, and how we respond and support, and especially at that early help, which our children's centres brilliantly provide. It has to be acknowledged that it's fully integrated with the health sector and the 0 to 19 team in terms of health outcomes, and all this will be taken in part of as a part of the review, which will obviously come back when it is completed and analysed. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Harland, do you want to report on the community centres?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cooper. So as you will know, the review of community centres was undertaken in 2023 as part of the wider estate rationalisation programme. The review involved officers from the communities team, asset management and facilities management, gathering data relating to each building's conditions and backlog maintenance, level of usage and income and running costs. The data was overlaid against current financial efficiency, the benefit of the local community, the future commitment to maintain the facility, the building location and its potential for wider use as a community asset, and opportunities for other buildings in the area to offer community use of the space. The Council's community centres portfolio has been reviewed a number of times, as those around the table will be well aware. And a number of successful community asset transfers have come as a result of that, such as the Kentmere Community Centre in Killinbeck and Seacroft Ward, and Woodhouse Community Centre in Little London and Woodhouse. Both of those, which are now thriving community hubs, providing services that are delivered by and for the local people. Similarly, a number of centres have been closed where there's not been sufficient use or need identified to warrant them remaining open. The most recent review in 2023 recognised that although community centres are highly valued by those who use them, many are in need of significant capital investment and are often underused and expensive to run and maintain. As the report states, for this current financial year, 2 community centres have been identified for disposal, Allerton Bywater Youth and Adult Centre in Kippets and Methley Ward and Strawberry Lane Community Centre. As Councillor Cooper said, I'm bringing a paper further down the agenda that details how we are looking at new ways of working in the most disadvantaged neighbourhoods to bring about the most effective change within our localities, and I look forward to giving you more detail then. I would like to say a huge thank you to Liz Jarman, Mark Mills and Richard Jackson, who put an awful lot of work into this and have got us to the good place that we are at present. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. A lot there. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, it's about 4 or 5 papers in one, isn't it? Which is an interesting approach. Cross-council. Well, and I'm very much in favour of that, and it's what I've got mixed views about this. The approach of working across council, particularly within our buildings, is the right one, because actually when you talk to our residents, they just see the council. They're not bothered which department it was or which directorate. They just want services that work for them. If I can just ask one question before I make a more general comment about it, and that is to ask what role scrutiny has had in this, and which scrutiny boards have looked at it, and what are their thoughts on it?
From service perspective, do the directors want to speak to their engagement with scrutiny on that? I know from the locality buildings review that the resources scrutiny has been involved in that review, and it's ongoing work with scrutiny, and we've taken on board many of the comments that have been made through that scrutiny board. In terms of the services, do you want to speak to that, Caroline, and then
Certainly, thank you, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Lamb. We haven't taken this proposal to scrutiny board because we've been so determined to do quite really extensive consultation and just listen to what people are saying and take on board what they're asking for, and therefore planning around meeting their specific needs and really focusing on that very personalised approach. So for that reason, we haven't actually been to scrutiny board. We can absolutely do so to say this is what our approach has been, this is the feedback we're getting, and this is where we're proposing to go to next. But that's where we're at the moment.
Julie, do you want to come in?
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Similar to Caroline, we will absolutely follow due process in relation to scrutiny. We've been in the early sort of consultation processes to date, but we welcome the role of scrutiny and we will absolutely engage them.
Sorry, Leader, if I can, and I know that the community centres has been to scrutiny, hasn't it, Councillor Harland?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it has. Yeah, it has.
Great, thank you. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, so I think there's a missing step in here. I think in terms of the broad strategic approach of rationalising our assets, working cross-council, that's absolutely the right thing. But within this paper, there is an awful lot of things that will have an impact on people and communities. And I think the role of scrutiny is a missing link for both in terms of getting a good decision and really thinking it through, but also just in a practical level, and I don't know if anybody can guide us on the legalities, but if a member had an issue with any one bit of here, does that mean the whole decision has to get called in to look at absolutely everything? Or would you be doing it bit by bit? So do we either have one super call-in if people don't like it, or we're going to have dozens and dozens of call-ins for the specifics?
Thank you. Nikki, can you come in, please?
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Lamb. So, as you've rightly identified, there's a number of recommendations that sit within that in this report. but each recommendation is independent of each other, and they sit within each scrutiny board, so they'd be called in individually and they'd be scrutinised accordingly.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
So my question, wouldn't it be better to do the scrutiny first and then make the decision, rather than have to scrutinise retrospectively? And isn't that the missing step here? I don't think it's right for me to go through one by one of the things that I might have an issue with and do that piece of work at this board. It should really have been done before it got here. But I would suggest that actually we look to scrutiny to have a strong input into this and then bring it back and make the decision subject to any recommendations they make.
Yeah, if I can come in here, Leader, I think each of the service areas that are identified within this report, so adults and children's, each of those recommendations would come under their separate scrutiny board areas for either calling, like you say, or for other consultation with those service areas, with those scrutiny boards. I would imagine that ongoing conversations are had with the scrutiny chairs and those scrutiny board members. I know they are from a resources perspective, and I know in terms of the communities that those conversations have been going on around community centres at that scrutiny board for a long time, indeed since I was portfolio holder for it as well. So I know that those conversations are had, and so I am confident that it has been done in the right way. I think it's right that we bring a paper that is cross-council, you know, but it is set out in a way that that does separate the decisions into their own governance structure, should that governance structure need to be implemented in terms of calling, as you quite rightly say. But you know, other than that, I think it's the way that we need to take this work forward. It is across the city, the work that we're doing. It shows how we're transforming services that are fit for purpose for today and tomorrow, and not for necessarily for yesterday or the year before or 10 years previously. They are changes that we need to bring in so that you know, new service users, new residents, and other people can engage with them in a way that they've never been able to engage with before. If this is about improving services, not necessarily you know, having an impact on service delivery in that way. You know, so I am confident that the report has been done in the right way, and would still present it that way to Executive Board.
Councillor Hayden, please.
Thank you. Just in terms of the Children's Centre review, it is going on at the moment, and scrutiny will be very much involved in that. We've had 2,000 responses from families to the survey and 150 professionals. So we're very, very keen to get every stakeholder across the city opinion and input. They are the experts, and you know, we're very, very keen to hear, and as you know, I'm very, very keen to take it to scrutiny and get scrutiny boards input. It's been very, very helpful over other reviews that we've done, and as a former scrutiny chair, I am totally devoted to the input of scrutiny.
Thank you. If there's no more comments on this, oh, you want to come back, Councillor Lamb?
Well, just to set out my position as well, as another former scrutiny chair, then I'm a huge advocate of pre-decision scrutiny, and we just heard that large swathes of these recommendations haven't been subject to scrutiny yet.
Well, it's not large swathes.
Well, two out of three directors that responded said it hadn't been to scrutiny, so that's quite a significant amount. So I can't support it as it is. There are too many unknowns and things in there. My suggestion is that it does go to scrutiny first, and actually if you listened to some of my suggestions and took them on board at this table, we wouldn't be dealing with some of the issues we're having to later on.
Okay. So I thought you were going to come in there, Councillor Cooper.
The mic was on, Leader, I just realised.
All right, I'm going to turn to the recommendations. I take it Councillor Lamb doesn't support them, and I take it everybody else does. That's great, thank you. We will move on to item 11, please, Councillor Pryor.
Thank you. So this is the creation of the Aire Resilience Company Community Interest Company. So the Leeds Flood Alleviation Scheme is an impressive and innovative scheme that we can all absolutely be proud of for so many reasons. Of course, we had a previous exec board paper on the completion of the main scheme itself. But one element I'd like to tackle, or I'd like to highlight, is how we're using the natural landscape of the Aire Valley to tackle climate change. And climate change will make protecting the city from flooding harder in the future, and the natural flood management element of the flood alleviation scheme will work to complement the engineering work we've done to fight back against the impacts of climate change. So planting 750,000 trees and improving soil and land across 1,300 hectares will reduce flood flow to Leeds, particularly when there's a big flood event similar to Boxing Day in 2015, by 5%, by helping the land to hold the water in the upper catchment for longer and then releasing it more slowly. So we've been working hard alongside our flood alleviation scheme engineering work with a range of experts to bring forward a proposal to create a special purpose vehicle that will be the key to getting the best from the natural assets we have in the catchment and will ensure the council can achieve the full extent of the flood protection for the city long into the future. But public funding alone can't do this. Funding for nature and ongoing land management is a complicated business, so the blended finance model that the Aire Resilience Company sets out in its business plan aims to lever private funding in a sustainable way that will be clear, transparent and effective. Businesses are confident we can do this and are willing to financially back our Aire Resilience Company once we take this step to create it officially. I'm really proud that the Council is once again at the leading edge of changing the way we do things here in the UK, and this is a great opportunity for us to show leadership and support an initiative that could literally change the landscape in the region and right across the country. I shall leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Pryor. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We celebrated the flood alleviation scheme last time, quite rightly, and while often I have to come and criticise here, it's nice to be able to come and say, actually, job well done. And on this one, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank, congratulate and applaud Jonathan Moxon and his team for the work that they've done on this, and not just on this, but keeping the city as safe as it can from flooding around the city. We're extremely well served, and I'm glad you're here today to be able to thank in person. I think the approach is innovative to funding this and interesting, and shows some possibilities for the future for other things as well. So yeah, very, very happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Jonathan, Angela, would you like to come in at this point, please?
I'd just like to thank colleagues that Jonathan has worked extremely hard, wider colleagues in this area, and we look forward to moving this forward with the support of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'd like to add our thanks to myself and Councillor Harland, and I know lots of other members of council who represent wards on the banks of the rivers in the city are really grateful for the work as well the team have done. We've certainly seen the benefit of the work in our ward, and as we see river flooding and storm events happening more regularly in the city, we really do appreciate the work you do, so I'll add my thanks as well. And I'm going to turn to the recommendations on page 300, and I take it from the contributions everybody is happy with those. Thank you. So we're on to item 12, please, Councillor Pryor.
Thank you. So this is the receipt of grant funding linked to Get Britain Working regional funding. So in order to achieve economic growth, we need to ensure more people are in work. Despite Leeds having a low unemployment rate at 2.2%, which is lower than most core cities, and a relatively large number of unfilled vacancies, our employment rate is too low at 70.7%. We're tracking below the national government's aspirations for 80%. We now know that the reason for this increase in people who are economically inactive is due to health conditions, with 32,000 residents in Leeds currently out of work and not available for work because of their health. We know that a lot of these people want to work, but crucially they need the support to develop the skills which will ensure they have access to a good quality of work that they deserve. This will not only improve their income, but also their health. We know that someone having a job or an apprenticeship can make a dramatic difference to someone's mental and physical health and their life situation. Additionally, there are people who are in work but due to health conditions are at risk of falling out of work, and we want to ensure that they have the support and help they need to stay in work. Our employment hub delivers local support services across all communities in Leeds. They do an incredible job, and we really welcome this funding to be able to secure the service with a focus on supporting people who have got health conditions and help them gain meaningful employment and prevent people from falling out of work. So this paper provides an overview of the work to date, as well as accepting the current funding, and asks for a delegation to the Director of City Development so we can process future programmes at pace to allow us to implement an impactful response which will help us further reduce the number of people who are economically inactive, help us address inequalities, and help us improve the lives of people in some of our most deprived areas. I shall leave it there for introductory remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pryor. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And broadly support the work and recognise the issue and the challenge faced. So the questions really are around what specifically are we going to do to really make a difference? What are the specifics around this? And what are we going to do in terms of working with employers directly to help them give in-work support to either keep people in jobs that might be struggling, or to help encourage them to take people that have been away from the labour market for a little while, because it's not just about giving the skills to the individuals, it's about giving the confidence to the employers, and potentially some practical support. So is that part of the thinking, and how are we going to know that this is working?
Fiona, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. In terms of working with employers, there is work going on with Aire at the moment, who are leading on that, and we are expecting to know further what's going to happen with that employers, because there is a key strand of work for us around supporting employers. We do know that with the funding that's going through with the ICB, that they will be working directly with NHS employers and with social care employers. So that is still very much a work in progress for us, but we expect that to be resolved and be coming through the combined authority later this year, hopefully in the summer, but if not by September.
Thank you, Fiona. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, sorry, and the other part of the question was how are we going to know that this is working? And just on support with employers, there's often a disconnect between what big employers who've got HR departments and things can do versus small employers who are the majority of jobs, and probably the ones where it would be most difficult to link people who are furthest from the labour market to those roles. So what are we doing to work particularly with small businesses to help support them to offer opportunities to people?
So, thank you, Councillor Lamb. That's the work that we'll be doing with Aire, and they are on with that and with that thinking at the moment. We are talking to them about it, but we don't have a clear answer around that just yet. We do know that SMEs need to be a big focus of that, because we absolutely recognise the importance of those. We also know that there are certain sectors that there needs to be a focus on. So, for instance, we know that warehousing, retail, distribution are all sectors, and they tend to be larger employers as well. So I think we're being evidence-led here, and I will be happy to come back or to go through the inclusive growth scrutiny once we have further information from Aire about what we're doing in this. And in terms of understanding the difference that we're making, we will be evaluating the work that we are doing around this, and I expect there to be evaluation of the whole programme across West Yorkshire as well.
Thank you. If there's no further comments on this, I'll turn to our recommendations on page 342, and I take it everybody is happy with those. That's great. Thank you, Councillor Pryor. And we're on to Councillor Harlan's papers. Item 13, please.
Thank you, Leader. This is the Tackling Inequality and Disadvantage Locality Working in Our Priority Wards. The report provides Exec Board with updates on the work that's taken place to deliver the city's locality working model, which provides a vehicle through which Council and many of its partners deliver our best city ambition to tackle inequality and poverty across all communities of Leeds. The report provides high-level summaries of the work led by officers in the Communities team and the Communities Housing and Environments Directorate, and involving a whole host of Council services, partners and residents. The report provides a comprehensive update on various aspects of the locality working approach. However, I would like to bring the following matters to the attention of the Exec Board and take their consideration and support. Activity delivered through the citywide community committee structures, including the recently completed community committee review, and ask that the Exec Board endorse the proposed geography for the new 8-committee structure, which will support the delivery of approved budget savings in 25-26. Note that the summary of targeted work that has been undertaken in each of the 6 priority wards, where the 12 most disadvantaged neighbourhoods in Leeds, those that are at the bottom 1% nationally, reside, outlining the collaborative work that has been taking place to help lift these areas out of decline. And I must say thank you to those partners in the third sector, faith, and of course community groups and residents that have been involved in that. The report also seeks Exec Board support to expand the current priority ward approach to Little London and Woodhouse and parts of Headingley and Hyde Park, both of which have seen some decline according to the Social Progress Index over the last couple of years. The Neighbourhood Improvement Board will be looking at how we take the learning we've had from the meetings that we've had in the 6 priority wards over the past year forward. The report summarises work that's taken place over the past 2 years through the West Yorkshire Combined Authorities UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and asks that the Exec Board supports the development of a targeted programme of work in 25-26, which improves community engagement, increases community power and amplifies community voice and influence. Finally, the appendices show some really interesting data from the 6 priority wards and the Gipton and Hare Hills priority ward plan. We should reference the Clearhold build here that's happened in Gipton and Hare Hills, that's seen a significant improvement in some crime figures in there as we now move to the build phase of that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harland. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's mixed views on this one again. The overall approach of this type of working in the most deprived parts of the city is right. The bit that I think it's crucial that we recognise, especially as someone who represents an outer area, but we should all recognise it, is that deprivation isn't exclusive to those areas, and we have to make sure that we have the systems and structures and ways of working that will help people who need it wherever they are in the city, not that we're just focused on certain areas. I suppose that there is good news within the data, but if you look at a broad brush, have we done anything like enough to narrow the gap from the most deprived areas and the most affluent areas of the city? I think you'd have to conclude no, we haven't. And that then calls into question the effectiveness of the whole work. It's not to say it hasn't had an impact, but there's clearly a lot more to do to narrow that gap, and that's when we know it's working, where the gap between my area and Councillor Arif's area is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. That should be all of our goal, regardless of which community we're elected to represent. I note wrapped within this paper is the community committee review, which we're coming to in a minute. I'll save my comments for that, but because of that and a number of reasons, while I desperately want this work to work and be effective, I can't support the recommendations on this occasion, reluctantly.
Thank you. Councillor Arif, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have mixed feelings about this report. Councillor Harland, I just say, as the chair of the Clearhold Bill, that has made a significant impact in my ward. I think the partnership working between the police and just council services, at one given time we can get 30 people, 30 different services in that Clearhold Bill meeting, and we are really starting to see the positive benefits of having Clayhole built in the area. We've got some subgroups which are going on to do some incredible work. As you'll be aware, we on the back of the disorder last year, with some spades of crime happening in the area, there was something we really needed to do in the area, and actually I honestly, even the report doesn't do full justice to the amount of incredible work that is really happening on the ground. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody, and this is a really good work that's happening. It demonstrates real partnership that makes a real difference to people's lives. Thank you, Councillor Harland.
Thank you. Do any officers want to comment at this point? Paul, please.
Yeah, thanks, thanks, Chair. I think in response to Councillor Lamb's observations there, I would say that this is an area of work that's continuing to evolve over time, starting in 2017, and we are supported pretty extensively actually by scrutiny arrangements and indeed exec board as we move through various iterations of this priority neighbourhood activity. Aiming to drive benefits principally for residents across the city, actually, in terms of a way of working, but in particular in relation to those most deprived parts of the city. That evolution is continuing. I think there's references in the report to how that development's taking place in terms of the work of the Neighbourhood Improvement Board, the work of the community committees, which I'm sure we will come on to, as well as specific examples within the paper. One of the challenges, I think, with this area of work is very much preventative in nature, and some of the benefits will be seen over the medium to longer term, I suspect. But we are looking at working more closely with data analysts to be able to better evidence the improvements that local areas are hopefully seeing through this approach. As an example of that, we've not moved away from indices of multiple deprivation data sets. We still use that. It's not that dynamic though, so the reference that was made earlier to social progress index data is an example of how we're trying to evidence those improvements, which I think is rightly being asked. Some of the principles of working in a more closely integrated way across the council and with our wider partners, they are being implemented across the city. It's just the focus and the doubling down of our efforts in the areas where we need to clearly is something that we're also focused on. I hope that answers some of the points from Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Are there any more comments on this paper? Okay, I'm going to turn to the recommendations on 376, and if you could just confirm what your views are, Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, I'm reserving my position on this, please.
Thank you. And I take it everybody else is happy with that paper, so we'll move on to item 14, please, Councillor Harland.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and this is the Community Committee Review 24-25. In June 2023, the Executive Board supported a recommendation to undertake a full review of community committees involving all 99 councillors. The review has now been completed, and the report presented to Exec Board this afternoon outlines the key recommendations that require Exec Board support. This includes the creation of a more structured community committee chair and themed champion roles, profiles, and the development of new community engagement frameworks for each committee. The changes that are being proposed have been reached thanks to the excellent engagement from all political groups, and I'd like to thank all the members who have given up their time to be part of this important piece of work, and particularly those elected members who helped steer the review through the member working group, Councillor Blackburn here today being one, and of course the community committee chairs, past and present. As Executive Board member with responsibility for communities, the role that community committees play to ensure that local people feel connected and listened to is one of the Council's most important functions. And I hope that once fully implemented, the review recommendations will provide a solid platform from which local people can better engage and influence how the Council delivers services, which was a fundamental driver to begin with in the first place, bringing this review forward. Appendices include the proposed role profiles for champions and for chairs. Leaders of the opposition groups were also consulted on the chair's role. It's hoped that scrutiny boards will continue to have a watching brief going forward as we embed the recommendations noted here today. And it's hoped that the report to scrutiny and exec board at least twice per municipal year. But all in all, I'd like to say again, thank you to everybody that took place. It were a really good piece of work that we did together. And I know Councillor Lamb talks a lot about collaborative working, and it really did come to the fore with this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harland. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yes, thank you, Mary. Councillor Harland. So I suppose the first thing I would acknowledge actually that Councillor Harland has taken a collaborative approach to this review and has engaged with members of all parties. I feel that there's perhaps a missed opportunity here. I think the reassurance I have and I'm seeking is that this is not the end of the matter, that the next step is, which I think we've probably done it the wrong way around, is to look at what more community committees can do. And I have a strong view that we could do an awful lot more for less money and do it more effectively through community committees. And I would like to see that being the direction of travel. It feels that what this has actually become to this point is more of a money-saving exercise rather than a method of delivery. And I'm curious to know, because I can't see it in the papers, what makes up the 243 or 234,000 pound saving? How do we specifically get to that? Because certainly the lost roles don't make it up. So I'm not clear where we get to that figure from.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for those comments, Councillor Lamb. Firstly, if I could just say that the community committee arrangements were set up, I think, just over 10 years ago, and have not been reviewed at any point in any meaningful way, to my knowledge, since then. So there have been, through that really positive engagement that you referenced there, Councillor Lamb, lots of good examples and opportunities that have been identified, referenced in the paper, to make those committees work more effectively and support local members who form the component parts of those committees and indeed the chairs. I think that in terms of this not being at the end of the road, I think that's a good observation. And we kind of recognise, I think, that we're starting out in terms of a new way of working here. What we have done and will be doing is seeking the support of scrutiny in terms of oversight of the arrangements as we kind of move forwards. So we are, and due to an anomaly in terms of timing, we are going to scrutiny shortly to secure that support, hopefully. With regards to the savings, specifically, they centre around two key areas. The most significant saving has been derived through a staffing reduction associated with the working arrangements, and there's also some member savings as well, which amount to the savings of 240 or thereabouts thousand pounds. So those are the two key savings areas.
Thank you. Councillor Lamb, please.
Yeah, I'd like to be provided with the breakdown of how we get to that number. I appreciate I won't be able to do it now, but if you could send that separately. Yeah, well, I've made my comment. I think there's a real opportunity to do more through community committees for the council. Do it better, do it much closer to the people the decisions are going to affect, and I think it would save the council money and deliver better services. I'm going to reserve my position because I don't think we're there yet with this, but I hope the collaborative approach will continue.
Thank you. I do think it's worth saying as well, following up the response around the savings. There's no savings recommended in terms of the money that goes to communities from community committees in the budget. It's very much about the way the organisation behind them works, not the support that goes out to communities in the city. Councillor Harland, please.
And just to say that the recommendation from going from 10 to 8 was never part of the review. It was purely a budget that came late at the budget. You know me, Councillor Lamb. I'm very, very passionate as a past community committee chair, very passionate about what they can do, and I think you're absolutely right, there's more we can do. The service reviews going on across the council with different services, so we need to look at what we can deliver differently and what we can delegate more to community committees. But it is about getting the people of our residents and the people of this city being involved in what we're doing and making some of those decisions and being absolutely imperative to making those decisions. And you can take that from me. That's a very passionate, you know me, as I say, I'm very passionate about the community committees and what they can do and should be doing.
Thank you, Councillor Harland. So, again, I'm going to turn to the recommendations and just ask Councillor Lamb to confirm what his vote is.
Yeah, I reserve my position on this one.
Thank you, and I take it everybody else is happy with the recommendations. That's great. Thank you. We're going to move on to the late item, which I'm just going to find on my screen. I should be introducing this item, and I'd just like to say that I'm sorry for the upset that today's paper will have caused after what has already been a difficult and emotional process for the students, parents and teachers at Queensway. The decision we took at the last executive board has been reviewed, and it is right that we rescind it, and I'll be very clear that we will learn from how we got here. We will bring a further paper forward soon proposing next steps, and it's important that we don't second guess today what could come next or what should come next, and time will be taken to consider all possible options before coming back to exec board. So that's my introduction to this item. Councillor Lamb, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm glad there was an apology there, such as it was. The pain and damage that's been caused to this school, its staff, its pupils, its wider community is enormous, and the position they've been put in because of the incompetence of this council is appalling. It's important to make sure it's really clear for people that are watching that this is not a council that's changed its mind. It's a council that has been found wanting in terms of its process. Nobody around this table, I don't think, is saying they've changed their mind about what should happen. And they've left people in limbo. The practical effect on people's lives is appalling. The teachers who thought they didn't have a job in September have quite understandably been looking for new jobs, in some cases have accepted new jobs, and they're now feeling incredibly guilty that the school needs to go forward, needs to educate its children, and they really are at a loss as to what to do. It is sadly typical of how the council has dealt with this, that the head teacher found out not from a council officer, not from a politician, but from a lawyer on behalf of the parents that this decision was being rescinded and the statutory notice wouldn't be published. What a way to treat them. What a way to treat these people who have gone out of their way to drive massive improvements in the school. They have gone from, they didn't have the opportunity to celebrate their Ofsted results because in parallel to that, this decision was put out. We made the wrong decision, well, you made the wrong decision last time to close the school. It's needed. My view is that we now need to give absolute clarity and certainty to them as quickly as possible. We should be setting out that we will not revisit this. There will not be a third attempt to close Queensway Primary School, and to give them the confidence and support. I have to say, if I was the executive member responsible for this, I would have considered my position very long and hard, because this is gross incompetence, and I'd reflect on that. It is an appalling mess, an appalling way to treat people. I have to say that the ward members for Guiseley, the MP for the area, have been cowardly throughout in not setting out a position, and I'm sure people will remember that when the time comes. I want to thank again the head teacher, the staff, the PTA, all of the support staff at the school and the pupils for what they have done. This is going to cost the council a lot of money. The fact that we made this mistake, we should acknowledge we've had to pull a second decision. that was due to come onto this executive board today for another school in Rothwell. It is a huge embarrassment. I don't think your apology went anywhere near far enough, Councillor Lewis, and I think the executive member should be apologising as well for the woeful way she has handled this. It is one decision I absolutely will be supporting to rescind it, and I hope we will not be revisiting it in the future.
Julie, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. I'd just like to reiterate your opening remarks, Councillor Lewis, and to say we are sorry, for the upset that this has caused, both, to children and families, to the staff, to the head teacher, to the governing body. We choose to come into working with children and families because we want to do our very best, and I speak not just for the Children and Families Directorate, but every colleague that I come into contact with in relation to children and families work across the council gets up every morning to do their absolute best for children and families and to get the best outcomes. We do recognise the upset that this has caused. I think it's fair to say that in recent years, due to previous high birth rates, that the pattern, really the theme, has been for us as a council, other local authorities to be responding to that increased birth rate and everything that then means for children and families, and also the impact of that on schools and other education settings. That's shifted, as we all know, in terms of those falling birth rates and falling numbers, not just in Leeds, but across other local authorities. And this is an area, certainly, speaking honestly, that I was discussing with directors of children's services right across Yorkshire and Humberside very, very recently. And to the extent that we have agreed as a body of directors across the region that it's something that we need to come together as a collective to think about how we respond to what is an emerging pattern and an emerging shift in terms of those falling birth rates and the impact, on schools and educational settings and on authorities as we respond to that. But absolutely, it's the right decision that we're bringing here today, and we will look to act as quickly as possible as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, please.
Just to add, associate myself with the comments of the leader and Julie's comments as well, but to follow Julie and just be clear that for today, to reiterate what the leader said about not second-guessing anything that comes next, this today is about rescinding the decision and nothing more. And I just want to be absolutely clear about the purpose of today's discussion. That's what we're doing today, Councillor Lamb, as you've said.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn to the recommendation on page 3 of the late item in the context of the comments myself and Ed have made. I'll take it everybody is happy with that recommendation. Councillor Lamb, please.
So are we in a position that we can give any kind of timescale to the school, because they feel absolutely in limbo, and even in terms, even if you can do it privately, so that we can have a clear path, because that I don't know about others. I've spoken to the head teacher directly. I've spoken to people at the school. They are absolutely in limbo, and trying to run a school in that circumstance is to apologise for upset caused. It's way beyond upset. It's way beyond that. It has caused massive disruption to people's lives. They are totally up in the air, and we have got to be in a position. I appreciate you can't do it. You just have to rescind the decision. That's all that can be done. I just want the assurance that we are going to move really quickly to recognise that we have behaved appallingly to the school leadership. The communication or lack of, not working with them, doing things to them, is why we're in this position. And I would just like a clear assurance that we will immediately redress that and start proper dialogue with the school community to address their concerns and agree a way forward as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Julie, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. Officers have continued to liaise really closely with the head teacher and with the chair of the governing body There was meetings last week. There's actually a meeting scheduled after exec board today to continue those discussions with the head teacher and the chair of the governing body, and we absolutely commit, as we have done, to continue to do that with a sense of pace.
Thank you, Julie. With that, I am going to turn to the recommendations, which are on page 3 of the late item. I take it from the comments everybody is happy with those recommendations. Great. Thank you. With that, I'm going to close the public part of the meeting as we have a couple of papers to consider in private session.